I hope you guys are prepared for me to just gush about this book, because that's pretty much what this video is going to be. Hello, and welcome to the Ponderings of Pete. My name is Pete. So this is a video that I have been wanting to put together for a while. And I have a bunch of notes, and I'm going to turn it into 2 videos, I think. So there'll be this one, and there'll be another one, which will be like things you should know before going into it. But this first one is things I really love about the Dandelion Dynasty. And I might make more Dandelion Dynasty videos if I can come up with notes and stuff for them, or, you know, just as I think about them. They might be more spoilery, like random discussions on like certain characters that are really good within it, because there's so much in the Dandelion Dynasty. And additionally, if you want to read the Dandelion Dynasty and you need an excuse to, I am going to be rereading it sometime in 2024. I'm not sure when. So you might be able to use that as an excuse to read along with me as I go through my reread. Without further ado, let's talk about this. And yes, I have my notes. I think one of the really big things that I really love about this series is the politics of it. And you know, I like political fantasy. I love political fantasy, actually, right? Great. Why leadership? Leadership is something that when I was younger, because of certain organizations I was in, I studied a fair bit of it for, you know, a teenager. And I love when that type of thing is portrayed in a really interesting way, in a beyond shallow way, if that makes any sense, right? Like one of the things that in particular that I really love is learning about is characters that really portray the sacrifice that is needed to be a leader. Because the higher up, the more things you're in control of, the more things that are underneath your purview. In reality, the more things you have to sacrifice. Whether you have to sacrifice your compassion, whether you have to sacrifice your morals, what things that were valuable to you before, you might have to sacrifice that in order to control more, or in order to get whatever is under your purview to a certain place that you want it. Dandelion Dynasty does that really well. Ken Liu does that so well in this series, portraying the sacrifices of the leadership and the effects of the decisions of leadership, right? Because this is a story about the ascent of a nation into modernity from some type of feudalism that is wild and really just, there's a lot of turnover, right? Every other generation, there's a completely new change in government brought on by war, pushing this country into something more stable. It's a great series for that. Just like, okay, you have all these people that are in leadership. What are their leadership styles? What choices are they making? What sacrifices are they making in order to make this a better nation? And there are so many characters I could point to that have different type of things that they sacrifice, or different type of plans that they did, that they had to do, that they had to change who they are a little bit to become what they needed to be for this nation, and the consequences of that. There's one character who is super contentious. Some people love this character, some people hate this character, but regardless, this is a character that is the most talked about in this series, because this character is just an amazing character to talk about. I won't tell you if I loved or hated this person, but they do so many things that are so interesting to talk about. The sacrifices this character makes, the decisions they make to just change the course of history in order to make this country into the thing that is, in order to make the country stable, in order to make the country what it needs to be, and change everything. And it's great. The other thing about the politics that I really love is that it shows that political changes can come from anywhere within a society, right? You have people that start out as just deadbeats in a bar and go so high in the government, and you see some specific people where they were, again, the dredges of society, and they eventually make huge societal changes to this country, or affect huge societal changes and support some societal changes. But they still get there, and they're able to do that, right? Societal change can come from anywhere within a certain confluence of events. That I think is one of the big things that really embodies the change of modernity, is that previously, before, in feudalistic systems and stuff like that, a lot of society's changes were dictated by people that are wealthy and people that are in power, the elites. But societal change can come from anywhere in modernity, right? We do have, it is still hard to enact societal change, but that societal change can more easily come from anywhere within our modern day context. The other thing with the politics that I love is it shows the formation of an identity of the nation. And that is really a really hopeful, really poignant theme with me, particularly because I feel like America specifically has lost a lot of its identity because it's so fractured nowadays. I don't think that's hot. That's not really a hot take. So seeing the identity, like seeing how different events throughout this country's history and the things that are happening in these books has shaped its identity is a really fascinating thing for me. And it gives me hope for the future in its own way. And it's kind of like, okay, you know, there's some inspiration there that I'm like, that's really cool. There's one particular storyline in one of the books that talks about how educational opportunity shapes the society, shapes classes, and how the different classes perceive their educational opportunities and how changes might affect that. That storyline in particular was really interesting to me. With all of this, I love this series because it makes me think about these things. When it tackles these things about nationhood, about education, about legacy, these things make me think and make me just sit with the book and sit with these characters and think about, oh my God, and you know, help shape some of my thought processes down certain paths. There's a lot of different cultural clashes throughout this series, and kind of how multiple cultures can come together and become a nation, among other things, and how that affects the people around them. This is like from, you see it on a streetwise level in some places, and you see it on a high up political elite level as well. Going back to leadership, because I'm all over the place with this, the core line that I wanted to use and I completely forgot about was that, like, these are a lot of good people trying to do good things, or things that they think are good, and are people who think they are good trying to do these things. And we see the effects of what those things are. They're trying to do their best in a murky world. Whether or not the actions that they commit are, or the actions that they take are good, is not something that they judge, but we as the reader can judge. And there's also some themes around there where whether or not the gods can judge their actions are good or evil. Because that's one of the fantastical elements of this, is you have the gods of Dara are POV characters at some points, where their effect on the world is either shown or debated, or just kind of, I think I talked about this a little bit, but I'll kind of go into it more. There are characters from all walks of life, right? It's not just the cultural elite. It is, you know, inventors, it is generals, it is kings, it is philosophers, it is fishermen, just people that live off the streets, chefs. Like, there's so many different people that are given POVs, that are eventually, you know, make their way up in the system or don't make their way up in the system. A lot of the core characters, even in this series, shift a lot because of, it is the Dandelion Dynasty. So you see people in like Grace of Kings have kids, and then what their kids do is really, really just like that plays into that whole concept of legacy. Like, what legacy are you leaving for your nation? Another thing I want to talk about is the engineering. The engineering in this book is so fun. And I'll talk about this more in my other video that I want to make. But the way that he incorporates the engineering and the stories about the engineering and the talking about the things that they're engineering, I really like that specific writing style. And part of that, like, I like KJ Parker's books for the same thing, right? Having just finished Devices and Desires, where he talks about building scorpions and stuff like this and weapons of war. Like, that is something I really like, where they just talk intricately about building things. And I didn't realize that was something I really liked in my books, when it's like flowed in nicely. But like the cool and different technologies as the country develops, the more advanced technologies, like to the point of like, is this a computer basically? Is really cool just to see as the country develops. And it's definitely a different thing that a lot of books don't really go into. But any musings on the implications of technology really are just like something, it's a theme I really enjoy. And it's a lesser theme here, but it's still there, right? I really do think everybody should give it a try. They're thick books, but they're great books. I want as many people to read this as possible. So if anything about these rambling thoughts about things I love really hit for you, let me know in the comments. What did you love about this series that I didn't talk about? Because the one thing about creating these videos that really just like has prevented me from creating them, because I always feel like I'm forgetting something, because I know in 10 minutes I'm going to probably think about something that I should have said, but maybe that'll make it into another video. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to have a great day, great night, and get some rest, because that is super important.